Hi again, everybody. It's Kevin Canessa coming to you live from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com on this, the 11th day of February in the year 2025. Sure. Glad you joined us today and hope everybody's doing well no matter where it is you are in the country. It's going to be cold today. It is cold today, and it may snow in a couple of hours. So hope you're all prepared for this upcoming snowstorm. But as you do each and every Tuesday, you welcome me into your home so that I can bring you this week's news. And before I do, I want to do a very gracious thing right now and say congratulations to one of my friends of many, many years, Bill Scarterfield, who is out in Arizona now, but he grew up in New Jersey, first in North Jersey, and then he moved down to South Jersey, where he was a star baseball player for Cherry Hill, one of the Cherry Hills, and he became a Philadelphia sports fan. And of course, as everybody knows, the Eagles won the Super Bowl on Sunday night embarrassingly easily. It was unbelievable how that game from the get go was just, I don't want to even say it was boring, but it was just so one sided. And the score was very deceptive no matter what. I mean, that game was just from the get go. You knew the Eagles were going to win, and it's the second time. So, congratulations to Billy, who is a big time sports fan for the Philadelphia teams. I am very, very happy for you, and I hope you had a good time on Sunday night enjoying watching the Eagles win the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. Also joining us today is my buddy Henry Atwell, who is here as well. And John Drimkowski is also watching us as well. John, you're right. Get the spring here, please. I've had enough of this winter already. So I'll tell you what, let it warm up. But it seems like it's going to be a couple of storms this week, maybe even Saturday. Again, another one. It's just getting ridiculous. Now, every year in February, I think about something that happened in this month back in 2003. And for the first time, I'm going to share a little story about something that happened in my life that not many people know about, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. It's not that relevant, but it's relevant to an anniversary that's coming up on February 20th, 2003. 100 people's lives were lost in a fire at the Station Nightclub. I'm going to put a picture up here. And this picture was taken just a couple of minutes before the fire completely got out of control. This was taken from the side of the stage, and the band that was performing that night was a band called Great White. And some of you may have even heard of Great White, but as the years went on, after the 80s, when they were very, very popular, they started doing a lot of shows in local nightclubs. And this was a small bar called The Station. You can see the t-shirt on this gentleman right here. The Station was a bar, nightclub, in West Warwick, Rhode Island, which is just outside of Providence, not too far from Providence in Rhode Island. And it was a small place. In fact, they said that it probably could have accommodated about 250 people in the nightclub. Now, I'm going to get back to the fire because this is the reason that we're talking about what we're talking about today, because of the fire that took place back in 2003. But in 1997, when I was a senior in college at Salve Regina in Newport, Rhode Island, most people don't know this, but in 1997, I was on the verge of wanting to become a police officer. And, people will joke around today and say, well, thank God that didn't happen because look at the size of you now. And I was much thinner and younger, of course, at the time. So the jokes aside, in 1997, sometime in the winter of 1997, I took the written test for one police department in the state of Rhode Island. And if I had gotten the job, I probably would have taken it. And lo and behold, it was in none other than West Warwick, Rhode Island. And I remember the day. It was a very, very cold day back in 1997. And I took the trip up to West Warwick from Newport. And I took the written test. And I did very, very well on the written test. And then there was a psychological test that came from it, and I did very, very well on that. Don't laugh at that either. But then I got nervous because I knew I would have had to have gotten into tip-top shape, and I wasn't. I was in much better physical shape than I am today, but back in 97, I was in okay shape, but I would have had to have gotten into superior shape in order to take the physical agility test that was required of obviously anybody who wanted to become a police officer in anywhere. But in this particular case, I'm using, for example, West Warwick, Rhode Island. And so rather than get myself ready, I decided against taking the physical test and I dropped out of consideration to become a police officer in West Warwick, Rhode Island. And there are many, many times when I think back to that decision that I made and wonder if I made a mistake. Because believe it or not, if I had gone ahead and got myself into the physical shape that I needed to, and I had passed the physical test, and then went on to be a police officer, I would already be on the job for 28 years, which is just kind of mind boggling when you think about it. And I would probably be able to retire now, or maybe I would even be retired. But I thought about that decision many times over the years. And then I thought about what the decision was like for the year 2003, for February 20th, 2003, especially. Because if I had decided to go ahead and take that physical test and maybe I became a police officer, I probably or could have very easily been on the scene of this terrible fire back in 2003 at the Station Nightclub. And what you're going to see in the next photograph is something that I'm not sure, and I want to warn everybody. These photos that I'm showing are very graphic. So if you have young people, you may not want to see. You may not want to allow them to see these photos in a video that I'm going to show you in a minute. This picture here was taken at the doorway to the Station Nightclub, and I don't know if you can tell from the way the picture is set up, but these people who you see here are at the main entrance to the nightclub at the station, and they are piled on top of each other. 1, 2, 3, 4 people high. Because when you see what happened that day, and you see how quickly this fire spread back in 2003, you'll realize how easily it was that people began to pile up on top of each other. And you can see very, very clearly the thick black smoke, the soot that's all over this gentleman right here on the right-hand side. And that because that happened, people were unable to get out. There were some people who were able to be freed, police officers and volunteers, and people who were already inside the club were able to get some people out. But once that stampede happened and people couldn't get out, that's basically what happened. That doorway became an utter trap for all those people who were trying to get out because of this fire. And then when all was said and done, this was the end result. At the end of the day, on February 20th, 2003, that black spot that you see on the right-hand side of your screen is what remained of the Station Nightclub a couple of days after. A lot of it had been cleared out. But in that location, in a building that was supposed to hold no more than 250 people, was estimated to be 425 people or more. So if you can imagine that the capacity for this building and for this nightclub was 250 and it was packed over by more than 150, you know that the people who were at that nightclub that night were sitting ducks. And why do I show this? And why am I talking about this? I thought about the possibility that if I had to have been on the scene that night, if I had gone forward and become a police officer in West Warwick, that more than likely I would have been there because I would have been young, so I probably would have been working nights. And I know that many of the people who worked as police officers and firefighters in West Warwick had to give up their jobs because they couldn't work anymore after what they experienced that very night back in 2003. 100 souls that walked in that building an hour, 2 hours earlier didn't come out. And it reminds me often of public safety and the work that they do, especially for this purpose, fire departments. I think many of you know it's not a well kept secret that over the last couple of months we've talked about fire departments on this broadcast often. And some of the comments that have been made were in the negative because of a situation that was going on with a firefighter in the town of Kearney. However, there are moments like this that what happened at the Station Nightclub reminds everybody about the work that firefighters do and what they have to witness sometimes. Now, most people will go through their firefighting careers for firefighters and not deal with a massive inferno that kills 100 people on the same day. But if there's anything that's very clear, and sometimes it takes a horrible incident like this to really realize it, and that is that the work that they do can't be really measured in ways that make sense. Because not one human being should ever have had to go through what they went through, and not one human being should have ever had to go through what they went through on the outside and putting this fire out and having to douse flames that were literally engulfing human beings and bodies. And that's what happened that night. So every year, come February, I can't help but think back to what happened at the station that night. All those innocent people. I thought for sure I would know at least one person who was in that bar that night. You know, this was 6 years after I graduated college, but I fortunately didn't know a single person. But I knew people who were there. Rhode Island is very, very small, and so there's a connection somewhere. My connection to West Warwick was that I almost went there and lived there and worked there. And all of these people and the hundreds of families that were connected to this, there were hundreds, had to go through some of the worst hell that they've ever been through and that anybody could ever imagine. And so, you know, it brings a greater appreciation for firefighting. And I bring this up also every year because of the importance of fire safety. You don't realize it. But I don't know about you, but when I walk into a large room, no matter where it is, I always scout it out to see where I would go if I ever had to escape a fire like this. It's really, really remarkable because, you know, I'm looking at the room I'm in right now, and the closest exit to this building is probably through our garage, which is to the other side. And then there's another one in the front of the building. And so when I thought about this fire, you know, and it stuck with me to this day, I always think about how the hell would I get out of here if I had to get out of here, if I had to leave and get out. And it always comes back to that, how much these people suffered and what the work must have been like for the West Warwick Fire Department and all the other towns that were there. I think somebody told me once there were 50 police and fire departments on scene that day. Now, I want to warn everybody, I'm about to show you a video that comes directly from this day. And what I did was I put a timer next to it so that you could see how quickly this place went from a happy, enjoyable occasion where people came to see Great White, and that turned into one of the worst tragedies in the history of American nightclubs within seconds. So if you have any kids who are with you, I would suggest turning this off, maybe watching it at another time. But if you have a soft or weak stomach, I wouldn't suggest watching this. But if you do have it within you and you want to see how quickly life can change without even an afterthought, you'll see it in this video. But again, I wanted to warn everybody before I showed this. So if you don't have a strong stomach, you probably shouldn't watch this. Some of the sounds and the sights that you see here are absolutely horrific. And so you know, this was filmed by a news reporter from WPRI, Channel 12 in Providence. His brother or colleague or friend was a reporter at that station in Rhode Island, and he was there to film a documentary on fire safety in nightclubs, if you can even imagine that. And the co-owner of the Station Nightclub also was a journalist at Channel 12 in Providence, Rhode Island at the time of the fire. There were so many oddities that wasn't even funny. But you will see it. You will see it here. But I'm going to roll this now. But again, with one final caveat. If your stomach is too much, I don't want you to sit through this. If you have to click off now. But this was taken from, it starts on the inside of the Station Nightclub on February 20th, 2003, and ends up on the outside of the building when the first group of people got out. And the timer on the side from the beginning will be accurate as to how quickly this happened, but there are some edits to this video, I think, so it may not be accurate toward the end. Here's the video. So you get the idea there. Um, this went on for another hour before they were able to put the fire out. And there are a couple of things to note. Number one, Kenny Evans had mentioned that the front door was one tiny door. It was actually, believe it or not, a double door, but one of the doors was locked shut. So that was number one. That caused so many terrible things. Number two, there was a polyurethane foam that was on the walls that was designed to keep the noise down and to improve the acoustics of the building. And somehow, I don't know how this happened, but the fire inspectors did not know that what they put up wasn't foam for sound and for nightclubs, it was packing foam. And so the polyurethane foam that they put on those walls was basically the equivalent of taking gasoline and smearing it on a wall. That's how much of an accelerant it was that day. And you see that. I mean, it's just horrible how quickly that went up. It was by 30 seconds. A lot of people realized right away that there was a problem, and you see the cameraman just walk his way out. And he got into some trouble, did the cameraman, because they said he took too long getting out. That's for people to judge. I don't know, because he wanted to get the fire before he got out, I guess, on film. I don't know, but all these years later, it still bothers me. 100 people in one fell swoop. And Larry Hanlon sent me a message and reminded me that it was that fire that helped get laws passed in the fire service. Sometimes, and Larry said, you have to kill enough for changes to be made. And at that time, sprinklers weren't required in any buildings like that, and they would grandfather in other people. Now, in the state of Rhode Island, I would imagine it's this way in many places. If a nightclub has 150 or more patrons, they are mandatory, and nobody can be grandfathered into that. And a lot of the people who survived the fire were some of the advocates who fought for stricter regulations when it came to fire safety. And if anybody in this world would know about it, it's Larry, as a fire inspector that he's been for so many years, and the type of work that he's done. But it certainly gives you a greater appreciation for that work in general and that line. So 22 years ago, on the 20th, you saw what you saw, and this is the first time I've shared it like this. I've probably watched that video 100 times, and each time it's as difficult as the last. Let's just put it that way. It never gets any easier. This week's paper, we have a recap of the Four Chaplains Liturgy, which was 2 weekends ago on Sunday. And there are plenty of photos that you'll be able to see right there. My uncle just asked, did the whole band make it out? No, one of the band members did not, and he was a drummer. And he had a young boy. His wife was pregnant at the time of the fire. So, unfortunately, he did have a son after. And it wasn't the original Great White. Jack Russell was there, and there was another member of the original band, but a lot of the other people were people who joined the band as they got smaller, because they sort of contracted over the years. They were pretty big, as you know. And then as the years went on, some of the regular members dropped out, and they had some newer people. So back to this. Please check this out. The Father Washington Mass, the Four Chaplains Mass, was a weekend 2 weekends ago, and it was a really moving experience. I talked about it last week, so I don't want to go through that one more time, but you know what to do. The banners are open. The applications for banners for Hometown Heroes in the town of Kearney. Linda Deisa is running it again, as she did last year, and if you want to get one, the directions are included in here. If you have a veteran in your family that you want to honor and things of that nature, the banners will be up from Memorial Day through Veterans Day this year, so they'll have a lot longer lifespan than they did this past year. But it was a pilot program last year, but Linda did a great job. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they were hoping to get a good number of people, and they got almost 200 to buy a banner, but there's still room for anybody who didn't get a chance to do that last year. So make sure you check that out in this week's edition. This young man who you see here has become an Eagle Scout, and he ascended to Eagle Scout in Unit 305 in Kearney. Continues to do a phenomenal job in cranking out Eagle Scouts. They really do, and I was glad to be able to share this. And that was something that Christine Jablonski used to be in charge of, doing the publicity for the Scouts, so God rest her soul, but she has a very, very competent replacement now doing it as well. Firefighter Madden was promoted to captain in the Kearney Fire Department at the meeting last week, and Chief Mastandria sent us this photograph from the council meeting that Barbara Goldberg took, and we wanted to make sure we were able to share that with you too, that there's a new captain at the Kearney Fire Department. Mike Gontarchuk sends us these blotter items that are incredible, and this one was great because this guy was riding without a helmet, and the motorcycle he was on was stolen. Not the wisest thing to do. Number one, riding on a stolen motorcycle, and then not having a helmet on it at the same time. So just when you think you've seen it all in the blotters, something like this comes up, and you see something even more incredible or ridiculous than the one before. And then, of course, there are more photos here from the Four Chaplains Mass, including one that I was in with Bishop Michael Saporito and Father Joe Mancini on the right. That's one of the first times I put one of my own photos in there as well. Jason Bernstein has 2 sports stories, including this one where Nick Landy is stepping down after 17 years as the head coach of the Harrison High School boys volleyball team. You want to talk about the end of an era. Nick has been the coach for 17 years. He's done a phenomenal job. He resurrected the program and made it what it is today, which what we would probably call a state powerhouse after years of futility before he became the coach. So congratulations to Nick on a great 17-year career, and we wish him all the best in whatever steps he takes. I don't think he's retiring from teaching at the high school, but he will not be coaching anymore. And of course, there's an Athlete of the Week. You can see that right here. Check that out on your own. And as we do each and every week, 2 pages of classifieds for you. If you're looking for an apartment, we got plenty of apartments. And if you're looking for a job, things of that nature, or if you're looking for work to get done around your house, we have all of that here as well. So that's going to do it right now for this edition of the Observer Live. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. I didn't get a chance to say hi to everybody, so let me do that before I sign off. Denise Pavlik is here with us. Tony Marinero, my buddy, is here as well. My Uncle Michael is here from California. Barbara Condon here from New York. Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate that. Kenny Evans, Jesus Uribe is here with us as well. And let's see, I don't want to miss anybody. Loretta Cummings, good to see you, Loretta, as well. And I know I saw Valerie before, and I hope I'm not missing anybody. Oh, and Carmen is here as well. And Eileen, who is often with us here, and those others I already did get a chance to say hello to. Don't forget, we will be back 1 week from today, or if news breaks, we will certainly join you for that. And then there's this. When you are finished and when we sign off, go over to our YouTube page at youtube.com/theobservernj.
Like and subscribe.
Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.